Hey guys, this is Corey from Grub. Today I'm going to show you how to build our awesome drawer cab. And let's start by getting into a tool list that we'll put up here. Here's just a quick visual of the hardware you're going to get. You have A through G numbered bags. They all have their own specific Allen wrench and socket wrench that they'll need. We're going to put that list up here on the screen so you can see all that. You have your half mortise hinges for the door, your door latches, and again we have Allens. We got all our sockets ready, our Phillips, our flathead, impact driver, and our socket. So just prep up all your tools. Here is the official list. Out of your package of components, find the two big L shapes. Can't miss these guys. They are identical, and you'll see how they go together in a second. But first we're gonna get all the clip nuts in. You're gonna need hardware pack G. This is your clip nuts. There's only one of them, so easy to tell that one. And let's get into how to install those clip nuts now. Now I'm gonna splice in a little video so you can see them up close. A little hard to see on camera, but basically each side of the drawer here are identical. So there's 10 clip nuts that need to go in this one, and you can see they're already placed in this one just to speed up the video. So here's what the clip nuts look like. They have two little ears, and you're going to set one of the ears over your piece of metal, and then take your flat blade screwdriver and push the other side into the piece of metal, and they're springy, so you'll be able to push it down. Once it snaps into place, it'll be locked in. But basically you just stick one of the ears in the square holes and push down with your flat blade screwdriver. You'll hear a nice firm snap. That's how you know you have it in right. And we're just going to do this in all the square holes. So there's 10 of them in total on this. Let's go ahead and get these in now. And here's an up close of the clip nuts. You can see their direction that we put them in. This would be the inside of the cabinet, and the outside is the nice flush part. Now that we have our clip nuts in, we're going to take either panel, it doesn't matter right now, take it and flip it over like this, and we're going to put the flange down inside of the other cabinet. So just like that. So now it's resting on the inside here. And I'm going to move this back and tuck this flange inside of this one. Just like that. So it'll have a little lean to it right now, but we'll fix that in the next step. This next part of the video is very crucial to success of getting this whole thing built up the way you want it. So find the front face. It looks like this guy. And what you're gonna notice is there's a whole bunch of holes down the side of this thing. And there's also a bunch of holes into the cabinet body here. So what you're gonna wanna do is, this thing's leaning, tilted, so we're gonna push it up straight and then push the front face on. So let's do that. Again, you're gonna tilt this thing up straight and make sure the front face goes on the outside of all of this aluminum here, and just push it on. So there's two ways that this cabinet can be set up. And this is the door that's on the bottom of the cabinet. You'll have two sliding drawers up top here. So this door can be set up as a right swing or a left swing. In order to do that, it depends how you've put this together. So before we get there, if you want your door to swing right, meaning it would open like this, then you would want your hinges to be on the right. And if you want your door to open to the left, that means you would need your hinges on the left. So these notches right here are for the hinges, and depending on how you have this built up, it'll either accept the left or the right. So let me show you that a little closer. So as you just saw, you can see light through the holes on the right, currently how we have it set up. If we pull this off and we take our cabinet and we spin it around, now we take our front face again and we put it on, you'll now see that our holes are open on the left hand side. So this means that now the door would open to the left. And just to have a quick visual on this, you can see now these holes are open on the left, And these ones on the right are now closed. Out of our F bag of hardware, these are kind of the main screws that go into all the clip nuts and hold the wood panels on. We're gonna grab 4 bolts out of here. We have 2 in the top here and 2 in the bottom. This will help kind of line everything up. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the back panel on. And this guy has a few big holes, and that's the top. So put that on same way. Goes on the outside of everything. Push that together. And then same thing out of our F hardware. We'll grab a couple screws here, 4 to be exact, and we'll put them into the clip nuts. And we can just leave these loose for now. A note, anytime we're putting bolts into the clip nuts, don't use an impact driver because it's just too much torque on the clip nuts and you can make the clip nut strip. So let's just do this by hand. This is the 5/32 Allen key for the F hardware. Next up, we're going to turn our attention to our drawers. So we'll have 2 of these guys. The little flanges, that's the front face where our wood's going to bolt to. And then the back, the flange is kind of internal. So you'll have 2 of those. Find your 2 backer plates, 2 flat guys like this. These will eventually get bolted on the back. Your cabinet's going to come with 4 drawer slides in total. So basically what we need to do here is just push them out, extend them all the way. You can flip it over backwards, and there's a little handle inside here. Usually you'll push down, but if you have this upside down or something, it could be up. Give it a little tug, and the slide part will just come right out. And we can set the body of it aside. And now, when we're looking at our drawers here, there's 3 holes, 2 slots, and 1 solid hole. So the front of our slide has the little upturned lip, and so does the front of our drawer box here. So really we're going to put these on. A little hard to show on camera here, but you're going to line up the slide with the back of the cabinet, and there's only one way these hole patterns will fit. So you should be able to get a screw in not the vertical positions, but the round holes. So you have 1 at the back, 1 in the middle, and 1 in the front. So let's put those on. And this is going to come from hardware pack A. These are the smallest of all of our hardware. And pack A hardware uses 5/64 Allen key and a 9mm socket for the nut. So let me put these on and I'll show you up close how they look. And here's our drawer slides up close. You can see the holes we're using and the drawer slide all the way at the back there. And then on the inside, we have our nuts. So now we're just gonna go ahead and tighten these down, and we'll move to the next box and do the exact same thing. Now we're gonna take our 5/64 Allen key and our 9mm socket and tighten these up. You don't gotta go crazy because they are nylocks, so you don't need to over tighten these. So let's get these all tight. Now we're gonna put our backs on our cabinets, or our drawer boxes, I should say. These guys have a little notch, and that's to allow them to pull out and miss the catch for the latch. So that notch needs to be facing upward, and just like that, we'll take our bolts from package F and put them in through the cabinet out back, and then grab some of the F nylocks. These are 7/16 and then the 5/32 for the Allen key. And kind of just get these hands started. And now we can use our impact and our Allen to tighten these down. Once we're done with that, we're going to repeat the same exact process on the other drawer. Next, find your slide brackets. These are going to be mounted inside the cabinet, and they're going to hold the main body of the slide. So you have 2 of these, and they're the same, but make sure when we start working on the slides, you flip one over, or else if you build them both in this directions, when you put it this way, your slide will be the wrong way. So kind of face them in towards each other. I'm going to sit them down on the table like that. And now we're going to grab the main body of our slide here. So if I flip this around, again, I hope this comes out on camera, but we're going to be using the main round holes. So we're going to use this hole, we're going to use this hole, and then this guy in the front. And I'll show it up close here once we get it on. But the little notches in these brackets kind of show where the center is. So we're going to put this on here, and you might have to move the slider around to try to get the holes to line up. And yes, so I see all three of those holes now. We're going to go to our hardware pack B and grab some bolts and nuts. And let's get these three started, then I'll show you up close so we can go ahead and knock out the rest of them. Here is the back of the bracket with our two slides attached. You can see what holes we're using. So basically front hole, skip a hole, hole, skip a hole, hole. And then if I flip this over, you'll be able to see that it overhangs the front a bit here. And then we have an overhang in the rear. There might just be a little more of an overhang in the rear compared to the front, but they're fairly centered on here. So there's a good view. We're using the center one in the rear, the center one in the middle, and then the front has a bunch of holes, but we're one back from the front. So now that we got one side on just hand tight, we'll do the other side. So again, we're going to make sure that these brackets are facing each other just like they're going to be in the cabinet. So these ones, these slides, will need to go with the back this way. If I put them on this way, again, they're going to be wrong. This would be the same direction as these ones, and again, that would be wrong. So you got to flip this over, flip the slides over, and that's the direction they're going to go on. If your slide just was running into this problem, it won't go back any further. There's a little pin right here. So if you just push that up, it'll release that back tension there, and then you can move the front of your slide around. So here's what your finished product should look like. You got a left and a right. These guys are mirrored. All right, so now we need to go ahead and tighten these slides onto the bracket. And for pack B, we're going to be using a 3/32 and a 3/8 socket. So we'll grab our 3/32, our 3/8 socket. So all we're going to do here is prop up the bracket, and you can see there's quite a bit of play up and down in these slides. I like to take it and push them towards the top, both the bottom and the top one. And you can kind of see if you get this wrong and like the back of the slide is down and the front of the slide is up, that's going to really affect your drawer box and how smoothly your drawers go in and out. So you really want to get these kind of like level, and you can use the back here. You can use the piece of the bracket to see, okay, that side's up, so I have no gap there, and then I can see the slide on this end. So that's how you know if it's cocked or not. You can also tighten this upside down like this, and that'll drop the slides to the most top position. So that's how we're gonna do it. So we got the whole bracket upside down. We got our Allen key on our right hand here, and then our socket, and just tighten this down. So now that the front one's tight, the back one still has play in it. You can see that up and down movement. So as long as we keep it upside down, it should land up being perfectly level. Now that that's tight, we can look and verify. Yeah, I can see the same amount of slide all the way down the slide, so that's nice and level. And now we'll tighten the middle one. So to do the top, you can keep it upside down, but I like to flip it back over. and repeat the same process. Now we can flip this over and look, and we can see, yep, our slide is indeed flat all the way across. It's not leaning one way or the other. So we'll tighten the middle down this one, and then we'll repeat the same exact process on the other side. So here's a close-up for you. You can see this is the gap we're looking at. The slide to the bracket all the way down looks good. And same on the top, you can see just a little reveal all the way down. So really take your time on this step. This is really important because, like I said before, if you get these off, your drawers are not gonna slide smooth. So take your time, it's not super hard. You just gotta be patient and be accurate with this one. Now we're ready to put our bracket and our slides into our cabinet here. So we have 3 holes on the front and 3 holes on the back that are open, and those correspond to the 3 holes here. So all we have to do is make sure our slides are going the right direction, and we'll stick this in the cabinet. And we're going to use our F hardware for this. Put our bolts in through the outside. And once you get the top 2 on, it'll kind of hold itself in place. And then use our F nuts. Get those started. Now we're going to do the same thing with these 2 holes and those 2 holes in the back, and then we can get it all tight. So now we're ready to tighten these guys up, and we're going to use our 5/32 and our 7/16 on our impact here. You will see there is some up and down in this as well. And again, I like to hold this up as much as I can. That just kind of gives clearance for the drawer boxes when they go in and out. Not super crucial, but the most important part is you do the same technique of how you're tightening these from the left to the right. And again, that's because the slides side to side, they need to be sitting at the same place. So let's go ahead and tighten these down now. Now that we have this side tight, we'll flip the cabinet over and repeat these same exact steps to get the other side in. This is the fun part. So we get to put our drawer boxes in the cabinet and see if we did a good job, if our slides are lined up. To do that, we're just gonna pull the slides out. Grab either drawer box, doesn't matter, and just line the slides up from side to side. And then once you know you have them in there good, you'll start to hear it click. You can start pushing back, and it might be a little firm, but there's one more click all the way in the back, and that really locks the slides in. There you go, you heard that. And now you can see that drawer box slides perfectly by itself and soft closes. So we'll do the same thing at the top. Pull these guys out till we get that last hard click. And then you can see this one's a little stiffer, so it's a little less aligned, but still sucking in by itself. So in this case, if you have some misalignment, you could go back and try to fix it, or if this is good enough, it still pushes really easy and it's sucking in by itself at the end. So in my book, that's pass. Next up, we're going to turn our attention to the bottom swinging door, and you're going to have 2 of these little brackets, so find those guys out of your kit. And then we're going to use hardware pack C and the rest of hardware pack A, which are the nuts. And then you'll also have 2 of these half mortise hinges, and these guys have 2 different sides to them. This piece and this piece, they snap together. We'll show you that later. But if we take a look at this piece closely, there's a little arrow facing forward. So that's going to go on our bracket facing the front of the cabinet. And then if you look at these brackets, they kind of have this arrow shape. That's going to point back. So when the 2 of these come together, this one's forward, this one's pointing back, they're going to mount just like that. We'll grab our C hardware, and super simple, thread it on, grab our nuts and put our nut on the back. All right, now that we got these hand tight, we can use our 3/32 Allen and our 9mm socket with our impact gun. So we'll just go ahead and tighten these down. Now we can turn our attention to the other side of the hinge, and these have 2 holes as well in the half mortise part. And you'll notice our hardware C here doesn't want to thread in nicely or go through this nicely. So you can kind of force it in with the Allen key, but what I like to do instead, this is a 3/16 drill bit. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but all we're trying to do is just open up these 2 holes just a little bit so it's much easier to get our screws through. So let's just drill these out quick and we can move on to the next step. Now we have our door. So the front of the door, nice and clean. Well, this one's dusty, but you get the picture on the back. So this is where our half mortise hinges are going to be located, but we need to install some threads for these guys. So you'll notice in your hardware pack C, these little tiny guys, they got a bunch of little teeth on them. We're going to put these 4 into these holes and basically hammer them in, and then that's going to give us our threads. So I'm putting some rags down here on the table, and I've done this because we're going to be hammering on this door and I don't want the front of it to get scratched. A couple other key notes here: the hammer I'm using doesn't have teeth on it, so it's a smooth hammer. And I go a step further, this is just a scrap piece of wood, so any nice flat piece of wood you have, we're going to take these and set them in, and you can kind of tap lightly to make sure that these are going to get threaded in there nicely. But then what I like to do is put my piece of wood nice and flat on there, and then I can smack the crap out of the wood and I don't have to worry about my hammer beating up my finished surface here. So I can just show you quickly how these go. So this one's tapped in, or at least started, and I'll put my piece of wood over it and give it a couple good whacks. So let me show you up close what that looks like now. So there's the threaded insert. You can see it's tapped down in there nice and flush. And that's what we want to do on the rest of the other 3 holes. One note on the threaded inserts, you can see the bottom, there's no teeth like on the first row down here at the very bottom. So this would be the top where we're going to hammer, and this is where we're going to set it in. Now we're ready to put our brackets on for our door. These just simply go in from the inside. We're going to use our F bolts again and our F nuts, so we can stick some bolts in through the holes, and make sure again this arrow part of the bracket is facing back. We'll repeat the same step for the bottom one, and then all we have to do is take our 5/32 and our 7/16 and go ahead and tighten these down. Here's what that should look like inside the cabinet. We skipped over putting the hinges onto the door once we had our inserts set, but really simple. We're just using the rest of our C hardware and screwing it in there. Now we're ready to put our trim ring onto our door, and it's really easy. The guy just slides over like that, and then we're going to use our hardware pack E. So our E's are going to go straight through the front, and we'll use our 1/4-20 or our F nuts for the back. So we'll just hand tight put all these on. Now we're going to use a 1/8 Allen key and our 7/16 socket. A note here, I switched off of the impact drill gun. This face trim here is kind of meant just to hold the bamboo from warping, but it's not super thick aluminum. So if you go really railing down on these bolts with the impact driver, you can really do some damage to this frame. So, and these nuts are nylox as well. So all we need is just a standard socket. Don't put too much torque. So let's go ahead and tighten all these down now. Now we're going to get our latches put into our door. So you can just click it open and and simply slide it in the front. And in the back, you'll have one of these pieces and a Phillips screw. So from behind, you can close it, and then we're just gonna put that screw in and just tighten it down. So there's what it should look like in the back and the front. So we have one more step to complete kind of the bottom part of the cabinet here. You'll have two of these rubber bumpers. These go in this hole and this hole. Sometimes, unless you have really strong fingers to pull these through, I like to use a little pair of pliers, and you can kind of like push it in, get it started, and then grab the little tip with the pliers and just pop it through. There you go. And now we can back off this stopper on the latch. And now you can hear we have something nice and soft for our door to rest against. And you can readjust that back of this latch here so that's nice and tight when it's closed and there's no wiggle to it. We're gonna work on the top two drawers, and we're gonna have 2 pieces of wood and 2 aluminum frames. So one note on the wood, we have this CNC cutout, and that's for the latch. There's a little bit of a thicker part on the bottom, and it's thinner on the top of the cutout here. So the thinner part is gonna go up, and the thicker part will be facing down. So this would be correct orientation, and this would be wrong. So with the thinner part up, we can take our frame, and these just set right on top, just like our bottom door. And then we're gonna be using hardware pack D for the bolts and F for the nuts. So we can just grab 2 bolts and put them through the holes here. We'll pull our drawer out and just line those holes up with the holes on the drawer. And while we're holding that, we can loosely start our nuts on the back, and then we'll do the bottom 2 bolts. Now before we go further, we're going to do the exact same thing with the top drawer. All right, now that we've got both drawer faces on loosely, we can put our latches on, and these go on the same way as the bottom. I'm just going to slip the face in there. You got your little back cover and your screw. Now comes one of my favorite parts of this cabinet and how it's designed. So you can see these drawers have a ton of travel. There's a ton of slop in both of these drawer faces. So we can get it absolutely dialed perfectly. So all the gaps are perfect in between all the drawers. So the bottom one is fixed. So we're gonna kind of go off of that. And what I like to do is set the top one as high as it can go. And then the middle one, I'll just split the difference of the gap. So if you're not as anal as I am and don't really care, you can kind of do this however you want. But I'm gonna set the top one as high as it goes, and then the middle one, I'm gonna adjust so it's right in between, and I have an equal gap here and here. The only other note here, we're gonna use our 1/8 Allen key. And again, we're gonna use a ratchet and not an impact driver, because these frames are not super thick and you can damage them. So let's go and get this all dialed in now. All right, we're almost done with this build. We're gonna grab our side panels and simply just place them up. Again, our F hardware. These are gonna go into our clip nuts. And we're gonna use our 5/32 Allen key. So you have 6 bolts there. So we're gonna put those on. So this process is the exact same for the other side, so we're not even gonna bother showing that. One note here, if you're mating up a fridge cabinet or some other cabinet to this and don't want to use this wood panel, you could take that off and then use the clip nuts that are behind there to bolt together the 2 units. So last but not least, we have our countertop. Now this guy sits on top. It's pretty self-explanatory. We do give you 6 half-inch wood screws, And you'll just need to pull out this top drawer, or probably the top 2 drawers, and there's 6 holes already pre-drilled in the top of this guy that you can screw straight into the countertop. Now, we don't put holes or pilot holes or anything in the countertop because you can shift this on your build to be closer to the wall. You can kind of like change the overhang here. However, that's going to best fit your build. So I'm not really going to show that step. The only note I'll give there is when you're screwing up from the bottom, it's nice to have somebody putting pressure on the top for those screws to really sit in there. So that's really it. Thank you so much for watching the video on how to build a drawer box. The drawers do make things a little more complicated, but with some time and patience, I think it's a really cool product and should serve you for years to come. Thanks guys, we'll see you on the next one.